Disney World is the master of deception. While you might think you've got all the rides and restaurants and resorts figured out, there are so many Disney scenarios that are going to make you go, "What? I was not expecting that." Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. I've never been huge on surprise parties or big events that I've been kept in the dark about until the very last minute, which is what's fueling the fire for today's video. We've recently been in Disney World with some brand new newbies, and they were kind of shocked by a few things that we kind of looked at and went, oh, yeah, I guess that could be a surprise to people and they'd need to know about that. So while you may not want to know all the spoilers about Disney World before you get there, you're definitely going to want to know the ones that'll make or break your trip. So today I'm filling you in on all the things that'll shock not only first-time guests of the parks, but also the things that still shock us about Disney, even though we're literally in the parks every single day. And speaking of being in the parks every single day, we've created those free Disney World planning worksheets for you based on what we know we need to prioritize while we're in the parks, and that we know you're going to need to prioritize too. So scan the QR code you see on the screen or head to disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyPlans, and we'll get those worksheets sent your way so you can start planning ahead of your big Disney vacation. Preparation is key, my friends, and I have heard from a lot of subscribers, a lot of viewers who have really benefited from these worksheets. So thank you for letting us know, by the way. Thank you for those emails. Okay, we are going to start with virtual queues. Sorry, but this is going to be a little bit of a sour note. If you want to ride the newest attractions when you're on your Disney World trip, like Tron Light Cycle Run in Magic Kingdom, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind in Epcot, and the soon-to-be Tiana's Bayou Adventure, also in Magic Kingdom, slated to open later this year, that means you're going to probably need to know how to enter into a virtual queue to ride them. And honestly, that's not a suggestion. That's an absolute must. Per the release of this video, there are currently no standby lines for these new rides. Now, that doesn't mean these rides won't ever have standby lines, but at the moment, if you don't enter into a virtual queue for them or buy an individual lightning lane, then you cannot ride these new attractions at all, period. And that really stinks when you've paid for a park ticket thinking you're going to have easy access to all the rides, only to find out you missed your windows of opportunity to enter into the virtual queue or buy an individual lightning lane. Now, this is such a bummer for so many people that are new to Disney World. They heard about these really cool rides and they head over to Disney World and they think, oh, well, this is great. We're going to head to Magic Kingdom. We're going to get there around 3 p.m. and that's going to be our first ride is Tron. And then they're not going to be able to ride it because it's all going to be sold out. And going down memory lane a little bit, of course, virtual queues started with Rise of the Resistance, and people were just devastated. I got so many comments, emails, messages from folks who were like, why would Disney do this? Why would they make it so that you literally can't even get in line for the ride and it's sold out before you even get to the park? Well, it's true, and it's a shift in situation that people have to start planning for ahead. So that's where we come in. That's why you watch Disney Food Blog, is so that we can warn you about this stuff so that you're ready to go when you get there. Anyway, you will have at least 2 chances to snag a virtual queue during the day, once at 7 a.m., once at 1 p.m. So if you miss your 7 a.m. chance, you've got a safety net to fall back on. While virtual queues do open at 7 a.m., you're technically going to need to be on the My Disney Experience app sooner than that to make sure you're ready to enter the queue right when it opens, since they can and will book up within seconds. Virtual queues are free to enter, but if you're nervous about completely relying on them to guarantee your spot in line, you can always pay for that individual lightning lane for the rides instead, which is basically a premium loophole where you can pay per person per ride through to skip over all the virtual queue hassle. Individual lightning lanes open at 7 a.m. for all Disney World hotel guests, but you won't be able to purchase one until the parks open if you're planning on staying at a different hotel that's off Disney property. So basically, Disney Resort guests have their first pick for return times for these A-tier rides, or I guess we should say e-ticket rides. This is a lot of information to throw at you. I'm aware of that, and it can be overwhelming when you first hear about it. But entering a virtual queue or purchasing an individual lightning lane is as easy as tapping a few buttons on your Disney World app. Disney's going to lead you through the rest of the process, but the most important thing you can do to help guarantee your spot is be quick about it. For more step-by-step virtual queue tips and tricks, I'm going to link our virtual queue post from our DFB website down in the description so you can study up and know exactly what to expect before getting thrown into the virtual queue trenches head first, right at 7 a.m., the first day of your visit. Now, this next one is something that dumbfounds Disney World guests all the time, including me, even though I've been there a million times. Let's talk about how you can get one of the coolest window views from your hotel room right now. Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge has Savannah view rooms, and that means you'll have a room where you can walk out onto your personal balcony and see a savanna filled with giraffe and zebra, maybe some okapi, some ostriches, and several other species of African wildlife during your stay. And because the animals are allowed to hang and chill on the savanna all night if they want to, you could legit have like antelopes just chilling below your window when you're in bed. Listen, I don't care what else happens during my Disney trip at that point. If I get to have a sleepover with like a bunch of different wildlife species, I am a happy camper. Now, the Savannah view rooms do have one major downfall. They're much more expensive than the standard view rooms at this hotel. We're talking a couple $100 extra per night for your wildlife neighbors. But you can potentially cut down on that price by booking a standard room and requesting a partial Savannah view, meaning you'd still be able to see the animals, but your view would be obstructed. Now, if you do decide to go this route, you will not be guaranteed that partial Savannah view. And sometimes, if your request is fulfilled, the view might wind up being more obstructed than not. But nonetheless, it's just something I like to tell you about because it's happened to me a couple of times that I booked a standard room, and when I got there, I requested a partial, an obstructed Savannah view, and they were able to grant that, but there aren't many of them, so it's definitely not guaranteed. That being said, the only way you can for sure guarantee a Savannah view is by booking the full-on Savannah view rooms and paying the extra for it. If you just want to see the animals out on the Savannah, but you don't really care if y'all are sleepover besties or not, you can still see them even if you're not going to be a guest staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge at all. The giant windows of the lobby still overlook the Savannah, giving you the opportunity to see all the wildlife for free. There are even some balconies out there where you can just head out and sit and chill and relax and watch those animals too. And if you want to go a step further and actually get closer to these animals while you're inside the Savannah, consider booking a Starlight Safari to get a VIP night vision tour of the wildlife for $89 per person. You can book this tour on the Disney website or on the My Disney Experience app. Here's another thing that can shock Disney World guests. Sometimes your plans change, and that's okay, but what's not okay is being punished for those changes. So, advanced dining reservations in Disney World can be made for table service locations 60 days before your trip. And that's all fine and dandy, but let's say you get a little overzealous and decide to maybe book 2 meals for one park, like 50's Primetime Cafe for lunch and Hollywood Brown Derby for dinner at Hollywood Studios. And then when you get over to Hollywood Studios, you realize you need way more time to ride rides and see shows, and 2 sit-down restaurants in one day are going to majorly eat away at that time opportunity. Or maybe you finish your meal at 50's and realize that was way more food than you were expecting to eat because Disney's restaurants serve huge portions, and you might find that one restaurant will more than satisfy you for the rest of the day. Well, it's totally okay if you want to cancel one of your reservations, just as long as you do it in time to not get charged. Yep, you are only allowed to cancel your reservation without penalty up to 2 hours before the reservation begins. If you want to cancel within that 2-hour time frame, you will not be able to, and then if you're a no-show, you will be charged a no-show fee for not showing up at your reservation. Most of the time, no-show fees will be $10 per person. But for certain restaurants, like Hoop-Dee-Doo Musical Review at Fort Wilderness, Victoria and Albert's at Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, Monsieur Paul at Epcot, and other high-end restaurants, cancellation fees work differently and will require you to not only make those cancellations earlier than 2 hours out, but will also charge you way more if you wind up ghosting them. You may even have to pay the full price of the meal itself, depending on the restaurant. Be sure to read up on the cancellation policies for the restaurant you're planning on booking before you book, just in case the policy works differently than you're expecting. Because, if you have 4 people going to Disney World, just a regular family of 4, and you are a no-show to 2 reservations, that's already $80 out of your pocket that you don't get any benefit for. Not worth it. Now, to cancel your reservation on time, open your My Disney Experience app, find the reservation, and select the cancel button below the resi information. And if you accidentally miss that 2-hour window, you'll be given a number to call to proceed with the late cancellation, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have to pay that no-show fee still. My best advice for you in that scenario is to swing on by the host stand of the restaurant you're trying to make the cancellation for and explain what's going on. Again, this might not free you of those no-show fees, but depending on the situation, the restaurant might be able to waive them for you. It always helps to talk to a real person at guest services or at the actual restaurant when things go awry instead of fully relying on technology to sort things out for you. And don't forget, you can also modify your dining reservations. You don't have to cancel it outright. You could just modify it to a different day as well. So there's a lot of options. But the option you don't want to choose is paying $10 per person just because you couldn't make it to a reservation. Okay, next thing that can shock Disney World guests is that you shouldn't arrive right at showtime. Let me explain. On the My Disney Experience app, you're going to be able to see the exact show times for all the different entertainment offerings on the day of your visit. But here's what trips people up. When Disney tells you a time for something, that's when the performance starts, not when you should arrive for it. For example, let's say you want to see Magic Kingdom's nighttime spectacular, Happily Ever After. On the My Disney Experience app, the showtime might be listed for 8 p.m. However, if you show up in front of the castle at 8 p.m., you're more than likely not going to be able to stake out a good view of the show. Lots of folks start finding their spots on Main Street USA and around the Castle Hub way before showtime, which is going to leave those stragglers who show up at the last minute stuck behind a tree or in a mass of other guests who are trying to exit the park. That's really something that we don't talk about enough here on the channel, is the massive traffic jams that happen around Happily Ever After when some people are trying to leave the park, other people are trying to get spots and jostle their way in front of the castle. It is just a lot of people, and it's a lot of cast members with their little lights, like their little directional lights, trying to get people to not stand in the pathways and trying to get people to go in the right directions. And oh my goodness, it is absolutely a major hassle. So while I don't recommend showing up hours before the show starts or anything, because you don't want to waste a chunk of your Magic Kingdom day just sitting around when you could be out there actually experiencing all the park has to offer, I'd say it's a good idea to find your spot maybe 30 to 45 minutes before the show begins, or maybe even 20. You can always use this time to snack on something while you wait, like maybe some corn dog nuggets from Casey's Corner or something from the bakery at Main Street Confectionery. But arriving early isn't just a mindset you want to have for shows and shows only. If you want to rope drop one of the parks to be there right when it opens, you're going to want to be at your resort bus stop, if that's what you're relying on to get you from place to place, at least 60 minutes before that opening time you're currently seeing listed on the app. Because here's the thing, Disney sometimes opens their parks a little bit early for whoever's there. And that's totally different from early entry. Early entry is for hotel guests, but sometimes those parks just open a little bit early anyway. And if you happen to be there, you get the benefit. Also, teleportation does not exist yet, unfortunately, and I can't wait until it does. But you can't just magically appear at the front gates of the park whenever you want to. Disney's bus transportation is like the opposite of teleportation. It takes a lot of time to get from point A to point B, and it's never kind of completely reliable about how long it'll take. You could get from your hotel to Magic Kingdom in 20 minutes on one trip, and then it could take an hour and 20 minutes on the next trip, depending on when the buses are going to get there, how many people are on the bus, what the traffic's like, what direction your bus driver has to take. You know, all of those things impact how soon you get up to that turnstile. So the moral of this whole thing is, if there's something you really want to do in Disney, the early bird gets the worm. So set those alarms and be early for everything. This is a nightmare for me personally because I'm late for everything, and my brain somehow plays tricks on me and says, oh no, it's fine. You can totally do all the stuff you need to do in 9 minutes and get to the park in 14 minutes. And that's why I'm late for every single meeting I have in Disney World. But anyway, don't be like me. Give yourself kind of a cushion of 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes for everything that you really, really, really want to make sure that you do. Now, we're a Disney food blog, so let's talk about some food. You may have to pay a lot more for it than you expect. If you're planning on traveling with a bigger group during your next trip, then you might be greeted with an unexpected charge on your table service bill. Disney automatically adds a gratuity of 18% for parties of 6 or more when you dine at a sit-down location, including buffet-style restaurants. Now, I tell you this not because I'm anti-tipping, very far from it. You absolutely 100% do need to budget for gratuity, even if your party is smaller than 6 people, and that goes for folks using the Disney Dining Plan too, since gratuity is not automatically covered by your table service credits. I tell you this because you don't get to choose how much you tip when you've got a group of 6 or more, unless you want to tip your server more than 18%, which you can totally do if they went above and beyond for you, of course. So don't be surprised if you're suddenly charged more than you were expecting, because that extra charge is the gratuity pre-factored into your bill. But what if one of your 6 guests is a baby or a toddler who's going to be munching on Cheerios out of a diaper bag rather than dining on a full meal? Do they still count towards that 18% automatic gratuity charge? Well, this is a tricky question to answer. Technically, that decision is up to each restaurant's discretion, so you may have to pay the automatic 18%, or you may not have to if the restaurant decides not to count any party member that's under the age of 3 as part of the 6 people and over situation. Now, I will say this, usually when you are booking a dining reservation, Disney does tell you to include babies and kids under 3 in your dining reservation so that there's enough room for the high chair or the extra chair or whatever. So they're probably going to go based on what is on the dining reservation, and if you've included the baby in the dining reservation, then that could bring it up to 6 people. Now, in this situation, it's best to budget back for that 18% tip no matter what, just so you're prepared whether it does or doesn't happen. Just as a general Disney World food warning here, regular old food and drinks cost way more inside the Disney bubble than they do outside the Disney bubble. Plain and simple. Bottles of water are going to cost you over $5 each. Popcorn topped with candy from Main Street Confectionery is going to run you $13 to $14. Donuts, like the ones from Everglades, are going to cost $5 each, which, to put that in perspective for you, would wind up being $60 for a dozen donuts. Even the McDonald's that sits on Disney property costs more just because it's inside the bubble. But of course, the most expensive places you're going to grab food from while you're at Disney are those sit-down restaurants. Well, yeah, some of the more immersive restaurants are going to be higher priced than others, costing $60 to $89 plus per person. Even the ones we tell you are the more affordable options can still wind up costing you $20 to $40 per person. So when you're budgeting your meals, you may want to consider these options to help alleviate the sticker shock. 1, find out which restaurants have meals to share. Some restaurants have items you can easily split between multiple people in your group, which can help cut down on the cost of paying for a whole entree per person. In the past, we've been able to share meals at places like Yak and Yeti and Animal Kingdom, Via Napoli and Epcot, Columbia Harbor House and Magic Kingdom, and Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar at Disney Springs. 2, purchase basic food and drink items from a nearby grocery store instead. We love having water bottles and standard snack items delivered to our hotel by way of those grocery delivery services like Kroger Delivery. But if your hotel is super close to a big box grocery store or local drugstore, you can always walk or drive over and pick those items up yourself before you start your Disney park adventures. And 3, limit the amount of table service you make reservations for. I know it can be hard to narrow down which ones you want to try, but your wallet's going to thank you for it. Yeah, Disney World quick services can still be pricey, but they're typically going to be half of what you'll normally pay for a full sit-down meal, and sometimes they're just as good. Now, I love this next one because I think it does shock Disney World guests in a really, really good way. Cast members are magical. So cast members aren't just employees of the Disney parks, they're magic makers, and we've seen them make magic time and again during our park visits, for other guests and for us, even during some of the roughest patches of the day. For example, when Country Bear Jamboree was doing its final shows before shutting down for that extended refurb, the show broke before it could get through the last few rounds of guests. But the cast members handled this with so much love and grace. They teared up as they explained the history behind this classic attraction, sang the classic songs along with the guests, and even let the guests walk through the theater to take all the pictures and videos they wanted. Yep, it was sad that the show was closed for good, but the cast members managed to turn a really tough scenario that could have made a lot of people really angry into a fun and memorable one. And don't even get me started on park proposals. One of our DFB reporters told us about how she was orchestrating the perfect proposal moment for her brother and his girlfriend in front of Cinderella Castle. When she asked a nearby PhotoPass cast member for help, they went the extra mile, opening up the PhotoPass spot just for the proposal, and made absolutely sure to get some great shots for them when it all went down. She even helped take some awesome shots on our reporter's phone, since those phone photos are absolutely free for PhotoPass cast members to take. And, of course, the girlfriend said yes. I guess the big takeaway here is to know that cast members are on your side, so don't be afraid to ask them for help. While you're not going to be able to ask them for something ridiculous and abuse that kindness, the cast members do love going out of their way to spread a little extra magic when they know you need it. I love hearing from cast members on my Instagram account, letting me know that really that's their favorite part of working in Disney World, is being able to make things better for the guests. And that's why the Disney parks continue to shock us repeatedly in the best way possible. Okay, now this one is a very logistics-based one. Don't panic when your park ticket doesn't work. I see this happen all the time, and it still happens to me too. Sometimes you'll scan your Key to the World card or your Magic Band or your Magic Mobile, and instead of getting that happy little ding with the good to go green light, you'll be greeted with a little dong followed by a hold on, I can't let you through yet blue light, meaning something went wrong with your ticket. Now, do not panic if this happens. Most of the time, the reason the blue light's flashing is because you scanned the wrong fingerprint. When you first scan into the parks, you'll be asked to scan a finger, and any of them, as long as they're yours, will work. And you'll use that same fingerprint each time you scan into a different park during your trip. So it's important to remember what finger you used the first time so the little blue light doesn't have to tell you to try again. If there's a different issue going on with your card, there's no reason to panic. While the cast member at the front gate may not know what's going on exactly, a cast member over at guest services more than likely will be able to figure it out. Instead of holding up the line for other guests, ask if you can be directed to the guest services area, if a cast member hasn't already sent you there anyway, so you can get everything squared away and get back to making those memories. But on the flip side, there's also lots of super cool free stuff in Disney World. You can go to Disney World and not pay an extra cent for some of their stellar free offerings. And a lot of newbies do not know about this stuff, so listen up. Campfires around Disney World resorts are already free, but the best campfires happen at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground. The campfires here have a bonus Cowboys sing-along and big old chipmunk hugs from your pals Chip and Dale. Then as you roast a marshmallow over the open fire, also free, you can start settling in for the evening to watch an outdoor movie. Now, this whole situation, this whole evening is completely free. You can literally just drive into Fort Wilderness and go and hang out with Chip and Dale at the campfire, and you do not have to pay a single cent. It is an unbelievable value, just a huge bonus that a lot of people don't know about. Now, when you visit Disney Springs, you can occasionally catch live entertainment at the Disney Springs Advent Health Waterside stage in front of the large World of Disney store, or at the Waterview Park stage near the boathouse. But really, free musical acts pop up in several places around the Springs, especially during the evening. We've seen rap battles happen outside the AMC Theater, violinists serenading shoppers across the way from Amorettes, and mobile pianists making their rounds with their self-driving piano. And speaking of free Disney Springs things, there are quite a few Disney Springs restaurants that have their own rewards membership programs. And when you sign up for those memberships, you might just get some birthday goodies thrown your way. In the past, we've seen CityWorks Eatery and Poorhouse give out $10 birthday gifts. Earl of Sandwich gives out birthday brownies. Sprinkles Cupcakes gives out, well, free cupcake. Wetzel's Pretzels has a birthday pretzel. We even just found out that the newest restaurant in Disney Springs, Summer House on the Lake, gives out a free birthday cookie with ice cream. So it's always worth checking to see if your favorite Disney Springs restaurants have an app or loyalty program to sign up for, just to see if they've got any special discounts or promotions or freebies to gift to you. Looking for more freebies? We've got so many others to tell you about in our 50 free things to do video on our DFB channel, so make sure to check it out after this. So one big reason people go to Disney Springs is to have a fun night out. And we need to warn you, Disney drinks do not fool around. You may think that Disney would add more sugary syrup to their cocktails and mixed drinks than they would alcohol, just to sort of, save money that way. But that mindset can get you into trouble with a capital T. Well, yeah, some Disney bars have pre-made drinks that aren't going to be as heavy-handed on the pours like you'll find at Oga's Cantina and Hollywood Studios. Many other places have handcrafted cocktails where you are not going to have to worry about the bartender skimping on you. But if you're not expecting those theme park drinks to go big or go home, then drinking around the parks can become a dangerous game. So do yourself a favor and pace yourself. Alcoholic drinks in Disney are expensive anyways, usually ranging about $17 or more per cocktail. So save for maybe 1 or 2 specialty drinks that you want to try each day, and then save your money for other park goodies instead. It's also not a bad idea to be on the lookout for flights when they're available. Places like Three Bridges Bar and Grill at Coronado Springs, Homecoming at Disney Springs, and Geyser Point Bar and Grill at Wilderness Lodge have flights available for their specialty drinks, so you can sample a few without committing to 1 or 2 full-sized ones. Flights are also easier to share among your group. And don't completely count out Disney's mocktail options, too. Not only are they tasty and fun, but they're also going to be half the price of a regular cocktail. Just a select few of our favorite Disney mocktail options are the Night Blossom in Pongu Pongu in Animal Kingdom, crafted with limeade, apple, and desert pear flavors, then topped off with bursting passion fruit boba balls. The Schweitzer Falls at Trader Sam's Grotto in the Polynesian Village Resort is made with various tropical juices and Sprite, and the bubble milk teas at Joy of Tea in Epcot. I also want to throw in all those seasonal or specialty coffees you can find at the Joffrey's kiosks around the parks and property. Some people think they're too sweet, but I still like trying out the latest flavors, or trying the flavors that are exclusive to a certain park or resort. One last thing, it's also not a bad idea to ask a lounge's bartender and see if a certain cocktail can be made in a zero-proof fashion. While not all cocktails can be transformed into mocktails, many of those handcrafted ones can be, and they'll also cost you less to order too, when the alcohol's removed. Okay, this one is still kind of shocking to me when I go to Magic Kingdom. FYI, that the Tron coaster is really, really short. Now, this is something that the folks that we were recently in Magic Kingdom with, who were brand new to Magic Kingdom and hadn't ridden Tron yet, were really kind of shocked by. The Tron Light Cycle Run experience can be summed up in 4 words, right? It's fun, but short. I think many folks who've never ridden this high-speed coaster before are expecting the same level of coaster time you're going to get on a ride like Expedition Everest in Animal Kingdom or Cosmic Rewind in Epcot. But while both of those coasters last about 3.5 minutes, Tron is actually half that, clocking in at a little under 2 minutes. It's also important to note that even if you do manage to grab a spot in the virtual queue for Tron, that doesn't mean you're not going to still have to wait in a physical queue once your boarding group number is called. Once you get scanned into the Tron queue, you might have to wait longer than you anticipated to get on the ride itself. It's not just like you walk right in through a door and then you get on the ride. Typically, we've had to wait around 30 minutes to an hour before we could finally ride, even with a virtual queue. We have, however, had better luck getting on the ride faster when we had a callback time that was earlier on in the day. So you might have a little less of a wait to worry about if you're able to snag a spot in the queue during that 7 a.m. distribution. Or you could purchase an individual lightning lane for it, like we talked about earlier. The only downside of that is that you're going to have to pay around $20 per person per ride for a coaster that doesn't even last 2 minutes. So you've really got to weigh your options there and figure out if that extra expense is really going to be worth it. By the way, bonus tip, if you do end up buying an individual lightning lane, you will be able to choose your return time. We always recommend that you choose a nighttime return time for Tron. I know, confusing because we just said go in the morning to have the shortest line, but we do think that the actual experience is better at night because of all the lighting. So pros and cons definitely for both time frames, but if I was going to buy an individual lightning lane, I would buy it for the nighttime. So yep, this ride is fun, but it'll be even more fun if you know what to expect before you go. Otherwise, you might build up this picture in your head about what Tron could be and then be really disappointed that your actual outlay of time is going to be, an hour wait and then a 2-minute ride. Okay, another money savings tip for you. Disney is not a stranger to the rain. More often than not, you're going to plan an Orlando vacation and it's going to rain on you at least once, if not several times. So these rainstorms typically don't last too long, but sometimes they can last all day. Now, you can still have a really fun and fulfilling day in the parks, rain or shine, though the outdoor attractions probably won't be running when the weather's really bad. However, I understand that walking around damp isn't exactly ideal, which is why ponchos and umbrellas come in handy, and we always have them with us. If you're able, purchase and pack this rain gear ahead of time. You can find really cheap ponchos at your local drugstore for just a couple bucks, and umbrellas are usually pretty inexpensive too, depending on what style and brand you get. Disney does sell their own ponchos and umbrellas, but ponchos are going to put you back $12 each, and umbrellas could be $20 to $40, again, depending on the design. Meanwhile, if you just purchase ponchos at your store back home, you might have only had to pay $12 total for the whole family. I'm not here to shame you if you decide to purchase rain gear in the parks. I mean, I actually end up doing it all the time, unfortunately. It's always the day you leave your umbrella in the car that it decides to downpour, and sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and pay the price if you don't want to backtrack all the way to the parking lot to pick up your stuff. Since you're going to get soaked during the process anyways, sometimes you just got to take the L. With all that being said, if you can avoid paying $50 for your family of 4 to sport those Disney ponchos, then that's one dose of sticker shock you don't have to worry about. Now, I hate talking about this next one, but I have to for everybody's sake. No ride or attraction is 100% guaranteed to be actually running or open when you're in Disney World. On the Disney World website, you're going to be able to search for different rides and attractions to see if they'll be available during your visit or if they're scheduled for some sort of pre-planned refurb. But even if a certain attraction doesn't have any scheduled refurbishments, that still doesn't mean it's a guaranteed experience when you're there. Remember, rain can play a big part in whether or not an outdoor attraction will be open during your visit. Technical issues also pop up for rides all the time, which might be an easy fix, but it also might be a kink that keeps the ride down all day long. We've seen Pirates of the Caribbean having real struggles lately where it's been down more than it's been open. Now, while this is a huge bummer, you can always keep your eye on the My Disney Experience app to see when that ride comes back online. If you happen to be around it when it does, you could ride with a very, very short wait. Now, we recently had a situation where we were with friends in the park and Expedition Everest was down. And even though it came back online for a brief moment, it went down again, which made us realize the problem was probably not going to be an easy fix. So we had a decision to make. We could either stick around and kill more time by watching some more shows or exploring the animal trails in Animal Kingdom and just hope that Expedition Everest opened back up before the end of the day, or we could jump over to Hollywood Studios with our Park Hopper tickets and ride Smuggler's Run, eat shrimp tacos at ABC Commissary, and watch Fantasmic. And we chose option B because that's what the group was most excited about doing. As it turns out, we made the right choice. We checked on the My Disney Experience app throughout the evening just to see if Everest ever came back online, and it never did. Was it disappointing to miss Everest? For sure. But did we let it ruin our day? Nope. We had a plan B, ready to go, and we had an absolute blast that night regardless of the Everest closure. So make sure you don't put your entire day on pause just because one ride isn't cooperating with your itinerary. Also, make sure that you have enough going on in your day that your whole day isn't going to be ruined if just one ride is down. So yep, unexpected closures are a bummer, but they happen all the time. So just keep swimming and always have an alternate plan ready. Also, make sure your kids know that sometimes technology or engineering just makes a ride not work for a while, and prepare them for kind of that disappointment if a ride they really wanted to ride might not be functional when they're there. And I really, really want to remind you of this. This is something that surprises people all the time. Even though we talk about it all the time, it really doesn't click in your head till you're there. Disney World is huge. Remember me mentioning earlier how bummed I am that teleportation doesn't exist yet? Well, you don't quite realize how big of a bummer that really is until you step foot onto Disney World property, and time is money. The sheer size of this place is almost impossible to wrap your mind around until you're actually there and you realize you just spent $1 bajillion to be here for 5 days and you have to do everything, and how much of it is going to be actually traveling between things. So between Disney's 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, 20 hotels, Disney Springs Shopping District, the entire property is the size of 2 Manhattan Islands squished together. It's also the size of San Francisco, if that gives a better idea. This is important to keep in mind when you're planning out your park hopping days or your different resort dining reservations, because traveling from place to place around these parts is going to eat up a lot of your day if you're not careful. While park hopping can be a great way to see multiple parks during a shorter Disney World vacation, you're definitely going to want to think about what you really want to prioritize here. And if a park hopper is going to benefit you when it's all said and done, that's because you're okay with spending that extra time traveling between parks on the daily. For instance, if your main priorities for your weekend Disney World getaway are to explore Galaxy's Edge and Hollywood Studios, but also to see Happily Ever After in Magic Kingdom, then a park hopper might make sense to accomplish both of those things in one day. But traveling between these parks is going to take an extra hour, maybe even 2 hours to actually pull off. You could always choose to just do 1 full day at Hollywood Studios and 1 full day at Magic Kingdom instead if you want to save yourself the extra park hopper expense and the travel time. Or if you're planning on staying at one of Disney's all-star value resorts, but you want to make breakfast reservations for Chef Mickey's at Disney's Contemporary Resort, you're going to have to make it over to your bus stop way earlier than your scheduled reservation time, since buses don't travel between hotels. Instead, you'll have to take the next all-star bus to one of the parks or over to Disney Springs, and then transfer to a Contemporary bus from there. This is why having your own car or ordering a rideshare service can be really nifty when you've got a resort dining reservation and you're coming from another hotel. That way you can go straight to where you need to go without all the extra bus transfers. Before your visit, once again, decide what your absolute must-dos are and map out the most efficient way to accomplish them all. Sometimes your resort stay can really help you out with that, especially if your hotel offers up other transportation services than just the buses. If you stay on the Skyliner route, for example, you'll not only have direct access to multiple resorts, meaning direct access to multiple restaurants, but you'll only be on a Sky Gondola ride away from both Hollywood Studios and Epcot. And if you stay on the monorail loop, you'll have 3 different resorts you can easily transfer between in a jiffy, as well as a direct line right up to the gates of Magic Kingdom and Epcot. All in all, don't assume Disney World is as easy as walking from one section of the property to the next, like you can do in Disneyland. This place is ginormous, so make sure the things you're planning for your group are also going to be practical for your group. Okay, now that you've got all the shocking stuff out of the way, you're 10 steps ahead of the game, meaning you can get to planning your vacation the way you want to plan it. Remember, we've got our free Disney World planning worksheets ready to send to your inbox over at disneyfoodblog.com/disneyplans. So head on over, drop us your name and email. We're going to send you that digital guide faster than the entire duration of Tron Light Cycle Run, which, as you now know, is pretty fast. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.